My name is Jessica, and I'm about to share the most satisfying wedding revenge story you'll ever hear. From the moment my fiancé David proposed, his mother Patricia made it her personal mission to make my life a living hell and destroy our wedding plans at every opportunity. This woman wasn't just your typical difficult mother-in-law, she was a calculated, manipulative narcissist who couldn't stand the thought of another woman taking her precious son away from her controlling grasp. For 8 months, she sabotaged vendors, spread lies about me to family members, and tried every dirty trick in the book to break us up before the wedding. What she didn't realize was that her attempts to destroy me would ultimately lead to her own public humiliation when I discovered the shocking secret she'd been hiding from everyone for over 2 decades. The sabotage started immediately after our engagement announcement when Patricia began her campaign of psychological warfare disguised as helpful wedding planning advice. She would call vendors behind my back to cancel appointments, claiming to be me and saying we had changed our minds about their services. She convinced my original wedding dress designer to give my costume gown to another bride by telling them I couldn't afford to pay the remaining balance, forcing me to scramble for a replacement dress just weeks before the ceremony. Patricia also spread vicious rumors to David's extended family, claiming I was only marrying him for his money and that I had been unfaithful during our engagement. She hosted family gatherings without inviting me, poisoning relatives against me with fabricated stories about my character and background. Every time I confronted David about his mother's behavior, she would play the innocent victim, claiming I was being paranoid and trying to turn her son against his loving mother. The breaking point came when I hired a private investigator to document Patricia's harassment after she nearly succeeded in getting our wedding venue to cancel our contract with false accusations about our ability to pay. What the investigator uncovered was far more explosive than just evidence of her sabotage attempts. Patricia, who presented herself as a refined socialite from old money with impeccable breeding and education, was actually born Patricia Johnson in a trailer park in rural Alabama. Her entire identity was a carefully constructed lie that she had maintained for 25 years after abandoning her first family to marry David's wealthy father. She had never attended the prestigious boarding school she claimed, never graduated from the Ivy League university on her fake resume, and most shocking of all, she had 3 other children from her first marriage whom she had abandoned when they were just toddlers. The woman who spent months telling everyone I wasn't good enough for her son was nothing but a fraud living a stolen life. Armed with this devastating information, I decided to let Patricia have her final moment of sabotage before I destroyed her completely on my wedding day. The week before the ceremony, she pulled her most vicious stunt yet by convincing the catering company that we wanted to change the entire menu to cheap fast food because we were having financial problems. She also attempted to have our flowers replaced with funeral arrangements and tried to get our photographer to not show up by claiming the wedding was postponed due to a family emergency. I let her think she had succeeded in ruining my special day while I quietly made backup arrangements and prepared for the most epic revenge reveal in wedding history. I had compiled a comprehensive dossier of evidence about her real identity, complete with photos, documents, and contact information for the children she had abandoned decades ago. Patricia had no idea that her reign of terror was about to end in the most public and humiliating way possible. The wedding day arrived, and Patricia showed up looking smug and satisfied, clearly expecting to witness the disaster she thought she had orchestrated. She had invited several of her high society friends to witness what she assumed would be my humiliation, including members of the country club where she held a prestigious position on the board of directors. During the cocktail hour, she made snide comments to guests about how the wedding was a hastily thrown together affair because of our financial limitations, not knowing that I had managed to restore all the original plans she had tried to sabotage. Patricia positioned herself prominently during the reception, ready to bask in the glory of her successful destruction of my wedding, completely unaware that I had prepared a special surprise presentation that would expose every lie she had ever told about her background and character. As the reception reached its peak with all 200 guests present and enjoying themselves, I stood up to make what everyone assumed would be a traditional thank you speech to our families and friends. I began by expressing gratitude to everyone who had supported David and me throughout our relationship, particularly those family members who had welcomed me with open arms despite the challenges we had faced during our engagement. I made special mention of Patricia, praising her for being such an interesting and complex person with such a fascinating background that I felt everyone should know more about her incredible life story. The guests smiled and applauded politely while Patricia preened with pride, thinking she was finally receiving the recognition and respect she deserved. She had no idea that I was about to pull the rug out from under her entire fabricated existence in front of everyone who mattered in her social circle. I then announced that I had prepared a special multimedia presentation to honor Patricia's remarkable journey from humble beginnings to the sophisticated woman we all knew and loved today. The large screens around the reception venue lit up with a slideshow I had carefully crafted, beginning with Patricia's real birth certificate showing her birth name as Patty Sue Johnson in Mobile, Alabama. The presentation continued with photos of the trailer park where she grew up, her actual high school yearbook photo from a rural public school, and documentation of her first marriage to a construction worker when she was just 18 years old. The guests began murmuring in confusion and shock as they realized the elegant socialite they knew was not who she claimed to be. Patricia's face turned white as she desperately tried to stop the presentation, but I had ensured the technical equipment was completely under my control and the show would continue until every secret was revealed. The most devastating part of the presentation came when I revealed the photographs and information about Patricia's 3 abandoned children, now adults who had spent their entire lives wondering why their mother had disappeared without a trace. I had actually managed to contact them through social media, and they had provided me with childhood photos and heartbreaking stories about growing up without their mother while she was building her new life with David's father. The screens showed images of Patricia's daughter graduating high school alone, her son struggling through difficult times without maternal support, and the family she had callously discarded to pursue wealth and social status. The room fell completely silent except for Patricia's sobbing as she realized her carefully constructed world was crumbling in front of everyone she had tried to impress for decades. Several guests were recording the presentation on their phones, ensuring that her exposure would extend far beyond our wedding reception. I concluded my presentation by addressing Patricia directly, thanking her for teaching me valuable lessons about the importance of authenticity, family loyalty, and treating others with genuine respect rather than manipulative cruelty. I announced that I had already contacted the country club board about her fraudulent membership application and that her abandoned children were eager to reconnect with their mother after 25 years of wondering if she was still alive. The guests sat in stunned silence as Patricia fled the reception in tears, her reputation in ruins and her social standing completely destroyed. Several of her former friends approached me afterward to apologize for believing her lies about my character and to express their disgust at her deception and child abandonment. David was initially shocked but ultimately grateful that I had exposed his mother's true nature, admitting that he had always sensed something wasn't right about her stories but never had the courage to investigate. The aftermath of my wedding day revenge was more satisfying than I could have ever imagined. Patricia was immediately expelled from the country club and removed from every social organization she had infiltrated with her false identity. Her abandoned children reached out to David, and he developed relationships with his half-siblings while cutting contact with his manipulative mother until she agreed to therapy and made amends for her past behavior. She was forced to sell her expensive home and move to a modest apartment, no longer able to maintain her fraudulent lifestyle without the social connections she had lost. Most importantly, she never interfered in our marriage again, having learned that I was not someone who would tolerate her toxic behavior without consequences. Our wedding became legendary in our social circle, not for the drama Patricia tried to create, but for the epic justice served when a master manipulator finally met her match and paid the price for decades of lies and cruelty.